Good morning. As you know, I am Caitlin, and today we're going to be going through how to add cards to the software. If you've got an extra batch of new proximity cards, or if you need to just add cards to the system to be able to assign them to the employees, and then obviously enroll the fingerprints. That's the second half that we're going to do. We're going to show you how to enroll the fingerprints on a CS time clock, and then also just give you the steps to add another card to your proximity card to an employee so that allows them to clock in. Okay, so we're going to then going to show you, if we go to the user module, let's say you've got a new employee. Let's just choose this employee, and you go and click on your cards. You need to assign them a new card. Now this is also the way that you would then assign them a new proximity card if needs be. You would highlight your employee, click on cards, and assign another card. Obviously, if there isn't any cards assigned, then that employee won't be able to clock at all. So you can go and assign, let's go and assign another card. Let's see, we want to assign him card number 7. Or then if you have got proximity cards that you want to assign, you would obviously then choose the number that is on the bottom right-hand side of that card. If there isn't any card numbers on it, you should be able to just swipe the card at the clock to see that number there. So let's say there's no cards in this list. We want to go and add extra cards or a new range of cards, because I don't see that card in this list here. I'm going to then cancel this. Let's move over now to the configuration module. This is where you would add your new cards there. So if you go to setup right on top, and then you go down to clocking cards, this would be a list of all the available cards on your system. You will see the number of cards at the top. You can also see that if there are any employees or cards that have been assigned to employees, you would see that it has an employee number next to it. If I just scroll down a little bit, we saw that card number 17 was available. There's no employee assigned here. So sometimes if you do have a scenario where you're looking for a specific card for argument's sake, and you don't see it in that list, just make sure that that card hasn't been assigned to another employee, and perhaps that's obviously why it's not showing your list, because that list in your user module will only show the available cards there. So I've got 2 proximity cards here that I want to go and add to the system, so I'm going to show you this. Now this is not only when you've got proximity cards, but also you need a card to be able to enroll a fingerprint on the CS time clock. Because what happens is when you enroll the fingerprint, it actually links to a card number. It doesn't link to the employee number or anything like that. It links to a card number. So you need to assign a card even if you're using fingerprint technology, even though it's, let's call it a fake card. It's not a physical card. So I'm going to go and click on Add at the bottom. Now, if you want to add one singular card, you can click on the Add button. If you want to go and add a whole range of cards, let's say you want to go and add, you see this is now up until 100 or 200 for argument's sake, you want to go and add the next batch of 100 cards, you would then do that in bulk add. I'm going to show you the first, just to add a singular card, so we click on Add. In my case, I've got a proximity card here that I'm going to use. I've got the number at the bottom of the card, which I'm going to just enter, 3020. It is the type of card, it is an employee card. It's not a visitor's card or a temporary card or special function like to print reports or anything like that. I'm not going to assign it to any specific company or anything funny like that. We're going to just enter the card number and basically be worried that it is an employee card type, and I'm not going to actually fill in any of that other information because it's not job costing, it's not a report request card, and it's certainly not an information card. I need the employee to use this card to clock with. So once I've entered that, I can just click on the OK button, and we'll see that that card has been added to that list. Now if you need to go and add in a bulk function, if we go to bulk add, you've usually got a prefix and a suffix in, well, not actually a suffix, you've got a prefix on these cards sometimes, which is like 000, and then it starts with a number. Now with the CS time clock, it's not too important that you put in those zeros, the leading zeros. You don't need to put that in. With the other clocks that we had, the previous generation clocks that we had, you had to make it a certain card length, like 10 digits. So if, for argument's sake, you do have a site where you've got then the Cape clocks, which is the old generation clocks, and you've got the CS time clocks mixed, you would need to make sure that this card length is 10 digits. So that is extremely important then. Then you need to put in that prefix there. But if you're just clocking on CS time clocks, all you need to do is put in the numbers. You don't need to put any prefix zeros in front. You can, for argument's sake, let's say you want to go and add the next batch. Here we'll see the cards end at 120. I want to go and add from 130 up until, let's say, 150. I want to go and add that in. Now in this case, also just to try and keep the order the same if you want to, for neatness, you'll see there is a 0 in front of these numbers at the back here. You can put a prefix of a 0 in. And you can make sure this is 4 digits long. You can then set the card length to 4 digits. Once again, this is an employee type card. You're not going to use any of the other ticks unless that is applicable. So once you've actually, I'm going to just change this, perhaps do this to 40, that is slightly less. Let's click on OK. And it'll add that range there. As easy as that. Once again, if you want to do a singular one, I'm going to just add another proximity card which I want to use. You just enter the number 04713, select an employee, and click on OK. And that is added. So now you've added new cards to the system. Obviously now you need to go and assign them to that employees, and then obviously you can enroll a fingerprint to that card, which will then allow that employee to clock. So let's close this screen. We're going to move over to the user module again, and let's go to this employee, and I'm going to click on cards, and I'm going to actually unassign this card, and I'm going to go and assign him one of these proximity cards. So let's see, let's scroll down to the bottom. There's only my available cards. The other ones had been assigned that we saw in that list. Just going to confirm this 104753. Select that card, and it has been assigned. Now obviously when you're also assigning any cards to the system, your server module needs to be running in order for that to then send the information down to the clock. Once you've actually assigned that card, it'll immediately send that down to the clock there. And then you should be able to clock, although you're not going to see it. We can perhaps just see if you can hear it. Let's just see it busy synchronizing at the moment. Okay, so that's basically assigning your proximity cards to the employee. You also then need to go and enroll the fingerprints obviously on the clock. Now that actually gets done on the clock itself. You're going to have to go basically, it's slightly easier just showing you the steps because on the video you can't quite see on the screen on the clock. So basically then we've got our card enrollment, which you're going to add the card to TNA like we did now in these few steps. Yeah? And then you're going to go and assign that card to that employee, which is what we've done there. I'm actually going to take the other proximity card. Let's just see, and let us go and give it to this employee. Let's go back to cards, and we're going to assign a card. Let us go and look for the other card, and that has been assigned there. Okay, so we're happy with that then. And now if you need to enroll a fingerprint, like I said, you need a card that has been assigned to this employee in order for you to actually link the fingerprint up with a card. So what you're going to need to do is when you actually go to the clock, for fingerprint enrollment, you're going to select the hash key, which is the menu key. This will then open up the menu and display a list of items there. Next you would then select 3, which is for the employee menu. That will allow you to go into editing your employees. And then thirdly, you're going to go and click on 3 again when you cube it to actually add a fingerprint. You'll see then that is the option add 3. If you, it's going to then ask you for a admin user, which you would then enter. If you've got a separate admin user password, you can put that in. Otherwise, the default is usually 9970, and then you press the hash key. This will authorize the enrollment then. It then asks you to enter the card number and press hash. Once you've done that, it's going to ask you to place your finger. Now, it takes 3 snapshots of your finger, so you would need to place your finger. You can just read on the screen when you're doing this. It'll say place finger, and you would need to remove the finger, place the finger again, and remove the finger, 3 times, 3 consecutive times. As soon as it has captured all 3 fingerprint images, it'll then obviously merge them into one, and it'll show you enrollment successful. You can then clock that. So I'm going to try and move over to the webcam. Let me just see if I can test this other card. Let's just see what it was busy doing here. There you go. We've got that guy clocking. I'm going to try and see if we can move over to the clock. And let's just see. Let's quickly go and choose this employee. I just want to see what card has been assigned to this employee. Card number 16. So I'm going to use that card to enroll my finger on this employee. Okay, so let's move over to the clock then. So to enroll the fingerprint, we press hash for the menu. We press 3 for employee, 3 to add the fingerprint, and then it asks you for the authorization fingerprint or the enrollment code, which you can put in 9970 hash. And then you enter the card number, which in our case is a 16, and then hash. And then you need to place your finger. So I'm going to place my finger once, move that, place your finger. Second time, and third time. Once it's finished, it'll say enroll finger successful. You can just wait for the main screen to come on, and then you can clock. And that is how you add that fingerprint to the clock. I hope you have learned something and that you join me next time. Goodbye.